Have you been masturbating or have you been watching porn? Because watching of porn can make you masturbate. Then listen to this video. Watch this video, right?
Why can't I stop watching porn? It is important that as we begin, we understand the power of pornography and how it hijacks the brain. And so I would like to begin by sharing the story of someone I once journeyed with. For the sake of this video, we'll call him Jide. He was 25, very active, and a committed youth in his church, full of life, jokes, and ideas. And so on the outside, Jide was fine, Jide was perfect. And so everyone saw him as a model for Catholic youths. But one evening, he walked up to me and asked if we could sit privately. And we sat facing each other that evening. And the first thing that Jide said to me was not, "Father, please pray for me," but it was, "Father, what is wrong with me? I have deleted porn apps and websites so many times. I have gone for countless confessions. I have fasted. I have wept. I have prayed. But by the end of that same week, I find myself back at it again and again and again." And crying, he said, "Why, Father?" That why in his question stuck with me because he wasn't just alone. He wasn't the first to ask me. There are many people who love God, but they are trapped in the cycle of porn, guilt, secrecy, and shame. And that might actually be your story. That might be you right now. Maybe you have confessed, you have fasted, you have prayed, and yet this same habit keeps pulling you back. This is not a lost problem. It is a wound that needs healing. And if this is your story, then please come closer because this program is for you. It is a place where we journey together to achieve healing. A lot of us must have asked ourselves, why does porn feel so powerful? Let's get it very straight. Porn is addictive, not just because it is sexual, but because it hijacks the brain. So it activates the dopamine reward system, a system that can also be triggered by cocaine, sugar, gambling. And so each time you watch it, your brain releases dopamine. And dopamine tells your brain, this is exciting, this is rewarding, do it again. But over time, you develop what is called tolerance. And so which means that what satisfied you last month no longer entices you today. And what you are born to do then is to escalate. You go for more videos, you go for more sophisticated videos, and you go for riskier behaviors. And so a lot of people might come to understand with me that at some point you are just comfortable with watching the normal scene of porn. But at the same time, at some point, when it begins to get you to that reward cycle, when it begins to get you to that height, you end up finding yourself looking for something more enticing. You end up finding yourself looking for something that is extraordinary, something outside the normal. And so you find yourself in that form of escalation. You develop tolerance that allows you to seek for something better. And so eventually, you end up finding that it is no longer about pleasure, but it is about escape. You escape from boredom. When you are bored, you just feel porn is the answer. When you are lonely, you feel porn is the answer. When you are in pain, you feel porn is the answer. When you are stressed, you feel porn is the answer. When there are aches of life, you feel porn is the answer. At that point, it becomes about escape. It becomes a method of escape for you. A lot of us will actually believe with me that porn often starts as curiosity and then it goes and develops into a habit before it turns into a full blown compulsion and addiction. And so it rewires your brain gradually. And that is why neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and form new pathways based on repeated behaviors. If you keep feeding your brain with porn, you are training it to crave for porn as a coping mechanism. But here is the good news. What the brain learns, the brain can actually unlearn. And that is why scripture tells us, when we turn back to scripture, it tells us in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, that be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So this is not just about trying harder. It is about rewiring your brain in the right way. You know, the worst part is not even addiction. It is the cycle of shame that follows. You fall into porn, you feel very dirty, you isolate yourself, you stop praying, you feel very unworthy, and that shame becomes the fuel for the next level. It becomes the fuel for the next fall. And that is a vicious cycle. And I want to say this as clear as I can. You are not broken, you are wounded. Wounds do not need punishment. What they need is healing. And that is why every step of this healing cycle from this first week to the 30th week is to draw you closer to that healing. This brings us then to the challenge for this week. Let us begin our healing journey with two small but powerful steps. First is that I want you to get a journal or a notebook and title it My Healing Cycle. It should be a notebook that is meant just for you, just for your consumption at the moment. And then secondly is to take time to put in these three entries into the book this week. First is what is your honest struggle with pornography and masturbation? Secondly is when did it start? Just have a reflection of whether you can think of when your first exposure to porn was. The first time you saw pornography, you saw a pornographic content, anytime. And then thirdly is the most important among all. Why do you want to be free? Please, I want to beg, do not filter it, do not spiritualize it. Just be real. Because the more honest you are with your wounds, the more powerful your healing will be. Now, just to remind you all, you do not need to walk on this journey alone. I am here. Not because I am a perfect priest, but I am a priest who has walked with some young people. And I created this healing cycle for people like Jide and for anyone who is tired of falling and ready to rise. Because it is not just about quitting porn. It is about finding yourself again and rediscovering who God created you to be whole, to be free, and to be fully alive. So welcome to Healing Cycle. The journey has just started. Thank you.